So first thing with Bitcoin today, we are seeing a bounce coming on the back of a beautiful little double bottom hit here. And again, this is what we discussed yesterday, how we were trading down into that technical support. So again, understand that again, when you have a big flush like this, essentially the flagpole down, you get this bearish flag pattern to form. And again, I drew the lines in the last couple days where you can connect the highs, you can connect the lows, and it creates a flag. I mean, literally a flag right there. And that again was bearish. Now, as we sold off, we came into this low pivot. That is short-term support. So we are getting a bounce here again. Yesterday, you saw me add to my Cardano position as well as pick up NEAR near. And both of those have bounced off of the key levels that I expected. Not quite enough yet for me to take profits on near, but I'm expecting further upside there. We'll take a look at that chart in just a little bit. All right, so one of the things I want to do here is I want to show you guys. So basically what you're now watching is you have this flag pattern to the downside, right? So you have that. Now, again, we're now creating a bigger flag that eventually probably does break to the downside, but it doesn't mean we can't break above it here for a little bit, maybe even trade as high as this level around 17,500. But again, please understand that this is a kind of a slow death down to that 12 to 13,000 level on Bitcoin, and ultimately I still think it's going to about the 9,000-ish give or take level on the BTC chart. In the near term, can we make some money? Yeah, I mean, if you look at near, we're already up pretty nicely on that trade, and again, good to see Cardano bouncing, although still out of the money on that. Now again, if we move up, you're going to start watching this trend line as resistance. We'll see if we can get through that. If we start to break lower on Bitcoin, you're going to be looking for 15,600. We break that, then again, you're heading down. It's not that far at this point, basically to the 13,000 to 12,000 area here. And again, really even once we get below 14,000, there's a significant trend line right here from this pivot top going back to 2019. Okay, so that's where we currently are sitting. And again, my guess is the next leg down on crypto will be a result of some new bankruptcies coming. I do think that we're hearing more and more chatter. President Biden's now been talking about regulation in the crypto industry. And I think at this point, it's funny because, so many people were against regulation, but now it's like, okay, well, if we're going to run the risk of putting our money on exchanges and basically having it stolen, then you need regulation and transparency to make sure that that doesn't happen. So the question is obviously, and this is the biggest question with any government, is do they over-regulate? And I think for the most part, I'm not expecting over-regulation. I think there are going to be some within the crypto sphere that, anything that comes out regulatory-wise, they're going to be like, oh, this is over-regulation. But I think the bottom line is I want some sort of transparency in this space so that we can actually lure in bigger money. And I'm telling you right now is that Bitcoin will not have another bull run until we get transparency and regulation, because once you get that, you will draw in a lot of new money. And I'm talking not just billions of dollars, I'm talking trillions of dollars in money coming into the space. So that's what you need. I mean, it's just the bottom line is, it's like, if we want to enjoy Bitcoin between, let's say, I don't know, the 20,000, 10,000 level and maybe 50,000, sure. You know what? That's fine and dandy. But you're not going to get 100,000 or 500 or a million until we get regulation and transparency, because the only way we are going to get that type of move up is if we have big money that has billions, trillions of dollars to come into the space. It's just that fact. I mean, it's a fact at this point. Okay, so that's your Bitcoin chart there. And again, I'm just kind of keeping an eye on things as we go. I want to just keep things on the radar. But let's take a look at Ethereum here and see what we have on that. And Ethereum, a little bit of a bounce here. Notice again, look at this. So again, just a pure technical level right there, pivot low to pivot low, and you're getting a little bit of a bounce. Now, this was bullish prior. Now it's not anymore. Now, you did have a bounce off support. That's fair. But again, this was a little bit of a micro bullish with a macro bear. The macro bear overpowered the micro bull, and we obviously collapsed into this level here. Now, if this level breaks right here, which is around 1075, then you're really heading down to double bottom right here, which is around, $900 per ETH. Okay, so again, just keep an eye on that. Do I expect us to rally back up? Yeah, I mean, there's always a chance we could have a bigger bounce where you get up to this level around 1,300 or so. Notice the downsloping trend line and this upsloping are kind of coming to a head. That'll be big resistance. That would be kind of my max bounce that would be potentially maybe possible in ETH. before the next leg lower. But again, at this rate, we get one more bankruptcy, one more shutter through the industry in the next few days or the next few weeks. And I think, again, then you see the next leg lower into this, 900-ish area. Now, one thing of interest, would I be interested in swing trading the 900 level on ETH? And the answer is yeah. As a swing trade right now, if we collapse, let's say by next Monday or so, into 900, yeah, I would be interested in picking it up as a quick swing trade. I think even as a potential starting position on a HODL portfolio, it does start to get interesting. Now, again, keep in mind, I still have it priced out that ETH could go as low as $300-$400. But again, you get to 900 and you're doing a 1/6 position. You could just add every 100 down, and you could add every 100 point down until you get to 300. And again, then your overall average is like 600. And really at 300, what's 600? I mean, if you're in from 5,000 or almost 5,000, think about what you're down. If you're in at an average price of 600 and it's at 300, you feel like a king comparatively. Now, you still are down 50%, right? It's still a hefty drop, but comparatively to a lot of other investors, that's where the problems arise when you're in from these highs, these all-time highs. Let's look at Cardano real quick here. Cardano, again, we talked about piercing the 30-cent level, which would give us a potential bounce. It was also this trend line. You can see that bounce is coming in. It's very minor at this point. The bigger question is, can we get up to about 32 to 33 cents? If we get through that, then you have a chance to get up maybe here to 37 to 38 cents. Anything through there, you start to attack this trend line up here, which is just above 40 cents, all right? Again, in terms of Cardano, can Cardano and will Cardano go lower? It's very possible it could, especially if Bitcoin and ETH are going to collapse further. But I think, again, my guess is Cardano does survive this bear winter. And if it does survive, then you're looking at a lot higher levels on Cardano versus 30 cents or 20 cents or wherever it bottoms out. I mean, again, I think, whichever, and this is going to be very important, folks, whichever cryptos actually survive, there is going to be massive money that's waiting to go into them. And I think that's important. So what I mean by that is that, if Cardano does survive, and I do think Cardano probably is one, I think Polkadot survives. I'm assuming Solana, but Solana you just never know about. Avalanche, same thing. But I think these kind of top tiers, a Polkadot, a Cardano, again, maybe Ripple as well. I'm not sure. I don't know as much about Ripple, frankly. But ultimately, these things probably retest these all-time highs and actually go even higher in the longer term. All right, so again, you look at it like a security, which again, frankly, Cardano is going to be classified as. Look at how much business they're doing on their platform, essentially, and you can map that out of the type of valuation that they're getting or they should get, and in the longer term, this should be 30, 50, 60, 70 billion dollar company, potentially maybe $100 billion company in the longer term. Now, again, we're talking years out probably, but the bottom line is I do think some of these projects do survive. And I've said this for a while, is that I still think, 95% of all projects out there have to go bust or go to zero. But I do think the ones that survive, just that Darwinian kind of thesis, the ones that survive are the strongest and they will thrive. Right? Think about it when and this is a great analogy for what the crypto market is right now. The crypto market is so big with so many projects and so many coins, right? 20,000 coins. Everyone's competing for the same few dollars of investment dollars out there, right? So what happens is you have everyone competing, and it's almost like you have projects that are starving, that are good quality, but it's hard to find those dollars to invest. Think about it if you have too many deer in the same area. There's not enough food for those deers. Certain deer are going to starve. Certain deer are not going to make it. So what happens is when you get rid, let's say you get rid of 90% of the deer, the other deer essentially eat like kings or queens, right? They just get so much food, which is what the crypto market will eventually become. All right, and again, you could use the analogy of the dot-coms, right? So you had so many crappy dot-coms. Audio Highway, I remember specifically, was just a piece of junk, but it got a crazy valuation during the late 90s, early 2000s. A lot of these went to zero. What emerged out of it? Amazon. Look at Amazon today, right? Amazon was a tiny speck back then. It emerged and then thrived. Google emerged and thrived. I mean, so many of these, right? And again, that's another great analogy for what's going on in the crypto market right now. And we just have to be patient, frankly. And again, you want to invest. If you're going to invest in good quality projects. Dollar cost average, buy small, all that kind of stuff if you're playing the long game. If you're swing trading, then we're going to be in and be out kind of thing, right? All right, so that's where we are at this point in time. Let's take a look at NEAR, since we just picked that one up. Take a look at the technical level down here. If we zoom in, by the way, that's a beautiful bottoming tail, so that's a positive for NEAR. Again, I don't know if it will hold long term, but in the near term, a bottoming tail is a technical signal of a bottom, of a reversal, and that is obviously a positive with price. Potentially, I think you could rally to this low, around 80 cents, $1.80, and then if it really has a big rally, $2 is a potential move. And by the way, even at $2, you're only going back to, this thing before the drop, it was up here at 345, and it fell to $1.40 basically, right? $1.45 or so. And so even at $2, you're still significantly down from there, which means it's not that big of a stretch to say a technical bounce back here is a potential bounce on NEAR. All right, let's take a look at Polkadot. Polkadot, nice little bounce as well. It did make a lower low today. It did basically kiss that $5 level. It wasn't low enough for me to add to my position. I was looking for a little bit lower. That's okay. We're still kind of hovering around this lower trend line. If you position yourself here through these lows, we're basically hugging or just around that low pivot right there. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now let's take a look at Avalanche. Avalanche continues to be under pressure. Again, yesterday we did close below this pivot low. Now today we are recapturing it. Notice no confirmation below. But remember that I do have it price point in on Avalanche to potentially go down to this line here, which is around $9. So don't be surprised if it heads down just a little bit more. Now, I say a little bit. Really, that would be another $3, which is a hefty drop to it. But again, and we're in the crypto world, $3 on a $10 or $12 coin is not that big of a move in the scheme of things, right? We've seen much, much bigger. So just a couple things to kind of keep in mind in regards to that. Solana as well. We've seen Solana continue to be very, very weak. It did close below this pivot point a couple days ago, down a little bit today or yesterday, and then kind of today putting in a little bit of a doji. One little tidbit here of intrigue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So you have a 7 count here. 7 counts are known as time counts in the trading world. Again, not a lot of people know this, but they tend to signal potential reversals in the near term. So you might see some sort of little bounce on Solana here moving back up. Resistance is probably, you'll have minor resistance around 12.5. My guess is the big resistance comes around 1460 to 1475. This little area of choppiness right there, that flat line here, and then that'll be now resistance on the upside. Okay? All right, so that's where we stand on that front. I'm going to continue to kind of keep you guys appraised of all of these things. Let's look at Matic here, see what we got on Matic. Matic, good bounce. Still hasn't achieved my low-end target where I would consider buying, so nothing there. Let's take a look at XRP as we go here as well, and XRP is also inching up just a little bit. So again, let's take a look at BNB. We haven't looked at that in a couple days. That obviously has broken down a little bit more. But the one thing you could say about BNB is that as an exchange, it's held up amazingly well, right? I mean, if you look at these lows, you're still well off of the lows from June. And again, that's not to say it's not going to have problems, right? It definitely could have problems, but at least in the near term, it is looking relatively positive here, holding up much, much better than a lot of these other coins out there. So just something to kind of keep an eye on as we go through, and we'll see again how that plays. Other than that, I don't think I have a lot. I mean, we could look at Quant. I've been watching that one. Still not down to this level down here, which is around 87. 87 gets me semi-interested on Quant. Then potentially it could go down as low as 73, which would be the next leg down if it did take that. Okay. Let me see what else here. TRX, we could look at that, I suppose. Let's see what's going on there. No, that one, again, maybe a little, man, no, not a bottoming tail. That's not a bottoming tail at this point. Just sideways chop right now. Notice again this low here and then this low right here, right? So basically you got this little double bottom and then a short-term technical bounce on that front. All right, so again, folks, bottom line is, just to summarize here, nice little bounce in crypto. The question is, can we continue to bounce over the next few days. A lot will be determined by, and again, we're hearing more and more about regulation, which to me is a positive. I know that sounds crazy, but it's a positive now. It was a negative a year ago. It will be a positive going forward. Again, I still expect downside in crypto, but again, like I've said, we are getting towards the end of it. I haven't added my second HODL position yet. I do have it on my radar. Should I do that? Remember, I do have my first HODL position. So as always, I will keep you posted on that. That's separate from swing trades, obviously. But nonetheless, I am keeping a close eye on that. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I will talk to you soon. You guys take care.